You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 73.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Bias.
Your brain can get stuck on the loop of I have no time to myself. And when it gets stuck there, that I don't have my me time, my free time, then it never actually gets solved. You never get the time to yourself that you need to rest and things like that. And so anytime your brain gets stuck on something like that, and I've been talking a lot about different ways our brain thinks when it comes around time in the last few episodes. And when we think like, I have no time, I have no control, and things like that, it gets stuck. And the best way to get your brain unstuck is to ask it a question, because your brain is designed to seek answers to questions. That's why we go on the internet and ask questions. And so when we get stuck on that phrase, I have no time for myself, we need to ask it, where did your time go? Because if you have no time, so where did that time go? Because we all know that everybody has time, 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, etc. So where did it go? And so what I do for my clients in this situation when they aren't practicing self-care and taking out me time for themselves, and I ask them where their time goes, is I actually write out, well, what did you do in the last 24 hours? Now, you can do this yourself and write out what you did in the last 24 hours, and I would really try to break it down into really concrete intervals as much as possible, like 30-minute intervals. And it may seem like a simple thing to do, but usually we don't do it. And so this is how I help them is I say what actually happened in the last 24 hours. And so two things always get missed. One is nobody actually scheduled any me time and any free time in to rest and to do what they want. Now, it may seem kind of obvious, well, if they're saying I have no time to myself, well, if you don't have time, then because you're kind of thinking that, you don't see that the solution is maybe to plan in that time for yourself so you get that time to rest. And I talk a lot about planning, and it's in episode 69 labeled, I Have So Much to Do. And so there I really talk about how planning your time is going to actually save you time. To solve for me time, and most people don't schedule this in, so what I have people do is schedule that into their calendar first. Plan for that first before you put in anything else, because it's always going to be the last thing that we ever consider and that we do. So it needs to go into the calendar first. And so basically what me time, or if you call it free time or whatever, is you're not giving to anybody else. It's your time to do whatever it is that you want. You want to binge watch your favorite program, or you want to go on social media or anything like that. And if it's something that you don't plan in and practice, when you go to practice it, what I've noticed is that it's very uncomfortable for people to actually take some time. And that's totally okay, because it's something new. And a lot of times things come up because if we're so busy doing other things and being distracted and things like that, we don't notice kind of more of our thoughts and our feelings. So some things might come up when you have this kind of moment to rest. And know that all that uncomfortability is okay, and it's part of that process, and still take your free time. Let it be uncomfortable. Sit there and be uncomfortable. And the next time each time it'll get easier and easier. And you'll want your free time. And this is something really, I think, that happens because it happened to me when I first started doing this, when I first started planning in my free time, when somebody taught me this process and then I actually did it, I was like, wow, I actually saw immediate change in the week. So I planned it in, and then I honored it, and I followed it, and it was weird, but I rested there and I read a book, I think, or something like that. And I noticed that I was a lot more calm when it came to dealing with my daughter and things like that. And I felt a lot more relaxed. And I was able within that week of taking that free time to actually see a benefit. So I highly recommend that when you go to do your planning, you plan in your free time. And the question I get, well, how much free time? Well, you're going to have to figure that out because it's going to be different for everybody. I can give you my take on how much free time I have with the job and family and things like that, but it is going to be different for everybody. You need to figure that out and plan it each week, and you'll learn and you will find out what works for you. And the reason why you'll find out is because you are already taking free time if you're not planning it in. But the free time that you're taking right now is probably getting so exhausted that you crash or you have mini burnouts or something like that. And oftentimes, or you get sick or something like that. And what ends up happening is you probably feel really guilty about it. But when you go to plan your time and you plan your me time first, is that you get your stuff done that you wanted to get done, and then you take your me time and it's guilt-free. Okay, so that doesn't come up. The first thing is nobody schedules in their me time, schedule in that first. And the second thing that doesn't come up when I do this exercise with people, like where did your time go, is that a lot of times people forget there are distractions that come up in their life. And by distractions, I mean, that notification, social media, somebody walks into your office, a colleague, and they want something or something like that. And you respond to it, or your kid comes in and they want something and you go help them figure something out. And so basically, this is usually the second biggest problem that I deal with my clients. So first is usually people aren't planning their time. And then if they go to plan their time, then they're not honoring their time. They're not honoring the plan in which they wrote. So if they wrote, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go exercise, go do the exercise bike or something like that. They don't do it. They need to write a blog post at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They don't do it. They'd rather go on social media. And so committing to that plan is something kind of interesting because usually when we make an appointment, let's say with a friend, we honor it. Well, usually, you ever notice that when we make appointments with other people, we'll usually show up. When we make appointments with ourselves to exercise or do a task that, will help us out in a couple days or things like that, we don't honor that. We usually let that go. And so here are the ways that you can build your commitment to honoring your plan. One is determine what a crisis is for you. So this is going to be, again, different for everybody. And it can be as simple as, like, if there's blood, I will let go of my plan and I will go deal with whatever it is that's happening. Or it can be you're at work and a request from your manager. That is something that you're going to leave your plan. And you get to decide what your crisis is, but it's definitely to be very clear when it is you're not going to do the task at that time that's written in your agenda because this happened. And I call it a crisis, but it's when you are going to let go of that plan. And what I want to challenge you on that is to make that a crisis situation, almost like if there's blood, because I work at home and my husband works at home. And he will come to me 5-6 times throughout the day to ask me something. And those are distractions. And so I made a request to him and I said, look, text me, because I turn my phone off when I'm doing my focus work, and I don't answer notifications until it's scheduled to look at all of my emails and my text messages and things like that. So send me messages and then I will handle those requests later. And the second tip that I have for building commitment to your plan is to determine one result per day that you want. And this is really if you're struggling to follow, you have exercise, you have work on this project, all of these things, answer all your emails, and you're not sticking to this plan. And I'll say, what is your one result per day? And a simple example could be, if you're a stay-at-home parent, and the result that you wanted today was to finish one load of laundry. And that means wash the clothes, have them dried, and folded. That's your one result today. And what I have them do is then schedule that. And so at 10 o'clock, you're going to go put in the load of laundry, and then you have something scheduled when to switch it to be dried and things like that. But the one result is to have one load folded. And you stick to that commitment, and you learn a little bit about your commitment habits, how good you are committing, how good you are committing to what you defined as a crisis, and how is your day actually running? Because, for example, sometimes a lot of times it might not be so clear as to where all your time went, but when you give it one task, one result that you want per day, and you put it down in your agenda at a certain time that you're going to do it on that day, and you go to do it, and you're going to get that one result. And so if it's like 10 o'clock, you're going to exercise and it doesn't happen, you move it to noon or you move it to 2. And I'll tell you what, I've done this for myself to build my commitment. And this happens a lot with podcasting. I have it in my calendar to do it at a certain time. And I will always, most of the time, will end up pushing it to the end of the day. And it's my one result for the day to build my commitment to myself. And I noticed that. And actually today, as I'm talking to you, I am doing it at the time I actually scheduled it and didn't push it to a later hour during the day. And so the biggest thing I want you to take away from this episode is schedule your me time first. I'll check back with you next week.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.